Shweta, we are live now. We can start.
Unmute yourself, Sushmita.
Shweta, you need to unmute yourself.
Sushmita, unmute.
Welcome to the webinar Pipe Dreams. I'm Sushmita Sengupta from the Water Program. We welcome you all to this webinar. We will discuss how the cities are planning for their future water supply in this webinar. We have experts from 3 big cities, Bangalore or Bengaluru, which recently actually hit the headline because of its water emergency. Then we have expert from Jodhpur, the city of lakes. And third, we have from the city of Nawabs on the Gangetic Plain, Lucknow. So I introduce you to Mr. Vishwanath, expert from Biome Environmental Trust, Dr. Ravindra Sinha, former scientist, former hydrogeologist from the State Groundwater Board of Uttar Pradesh, and Dr. Anil Mehta, Honorary Joint Secretary, Jal Sanrakshan Samiti. So before we start with other cities, just to pitch in, just to put it into the perspective, let me start with Delhi. Delhi, as we all know, depends both on surface as well as groundwater. Almost 80% of the water which we take is from the surface water. We extract every drop that enters into Delhi. The Yamuna, 25-kilometer stretch of Yamuna, every drop of Yamuna is extracted from Delhi. The groundwater from the official record is 14%, but surely looking at the demand-supply gap, the groundwater extraction is much more. Now we all know that Delhi is reeling under a temperature of around 50 degrees. So the water crisis is another monster that is adding to the fear of the citizen. So when we have looked into what is happening between last April till date, we see that the crisis started around mid-April, and then the temperature started actually roaring up. And then we see Delhi government moving the Supreme Court, talking of its share from the other states. As you know, Delhi gets water from its neighboring states, Haryana, UP, as well as now Himachal Pradesh. So every summer we hear Delhi government having conflicts with the neighboring state, Haryana. So this year also, in the end of May, they had moved the Supreme Court and asked for its share. Haryana also argues, they say that they have released more than what has been actually written in the contract. Supreme Court then asked the Himachal Pradesh government to come back and say that you release whatever is extra with you. Now, Himachal Pradesh being a state which actually has all the tourism-based cities in the state, they also now refuse to give the water to Delhi. They themselves, they are facing the water crisis. Now, every summer, we see that this is happening. The demand-supply gap is almost 1907 that we have seen from the recent government data. And we also see that the pipe leakage is actually hitting 58%. So Delhi also plans to go far and far away from the city. And over and above that, we also have this problem of inequity of supply. The NDMC area, which is the central area of Delhi, and the cantonment area, another prime locality of Delhi, gets around 500 LPCD, while the tail enders at Meroli get only 29 LPCD. Now, if we superimpose the groundwater map on the inequity map, we will see why this portion of southern Delhi, which gives only 29 LPCD, is actually extracting more and more groundwater. So this is roughly what Delhi is planning or Delhi is extracting, both from its surface and groundwater. So before we go to Mr. Vishwanath asking about Bangalore, I also want to raise another point of the tankers, because Supreme Court actually came back very heavily on Delhi government saying that stop wastage of water and control the tankers. Now, Mr. Vishwanath, I will come back to you saying that since Bangalore has actually hit the headlines, and we have seen that a water emergency was declared in the city. And the city, I have seen that almost completed, the media report says that it has almost finished the Kaveri phase 5. So do you think, number one, I want to ask you, whether Kaveri phase 5 will solve all the water use of Bangalore?
Well, it's an easy question to answer, as you know, Sushmita. We are getting 1,450 million liters per day from the Kaveri currently, 1,450 million liters in Kaveri phase 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? Kaveri phase 5, which you were asking me, will bring an additional 775 million liters per day. That makes it a total of 2,225 million liters per day. Now, if the network were to reach every household in the city, there would be enough and more water for everybody. There is also a question of what is the kind of standards we use as demand measurement. If we say that we need 150 liters per capita per day, which is what metropolitan cities are designing themselves for, then it will be a bit tight. But if we say that 100 liters per capita per day, basic minimum is to be an assured water supply, then there is enough and more water for Bangalore in its resources. As I've been saying for a long time, it's not the resource which is an issue, it is the investment in the infrastructure, making sure of universal coverage, especially to low-income areas and informal areas, which is the challenge. Some people will always be in a crisis. Many people will never face a crisis. Like about 75% of Bangalore did not have a problem with water. There was a bit of a shortage of water because there's enough in the Kaveri for them if they are connected to the network. If you're not connected to the network, if you're dependent on groundwater, you're dependent on tanker water, then you're in a permanent state of crisis. That is the situation. To answer your question, will Kaveri fifth phase solve the problem? Partially, if the network extends itself to cover every household.
Okay, so you are saying that the coverage of the city supply is actually a roadblock. If Kaveri phase 5 is actually supplied to the city, you need the coverage also at the same time.
So let me just add to the numbers. We've got 1.1 million connections of the Kaveri network, which includes domestic, non-domestic, and industrial. At roughly 10 people for every connection, that means 11 million people are connected to the Kaveri network. An additional 7.5 lakh connections are proposed under the Kaveri fifth phase. If those connections occur to all the households and apartments, then the Kaveri water will reach these households and there will be less of a crisis what is currently there.
Since Kaveri water is far off, means the city is going hundreds of kilometers away to get this water, what do you think about the expenditure about the state government? What do you think?
So it is a very costly water because it has to be pumped from 100 kilometers and roughly 300 meters below the city. So there's a head which has to be pumped up in 3 stages. The calculation of the cost per kiloliter of water for the Kaveri varies from 42 rupees a kiloliter, which is what the BWSSB thinks is the O&M cost. But if we were to add the capital cost, the loans, the debt servicing, and the sinking fund, it would be about 95 rupees a kiloliter. It's one of Asia's costliest waters simply because of the distance and the height that it has to be pumped from.
Okay. So coming to Dr. Sinha, So I have just seen some media coverage on groundwater. Now we were talking about the city going far and far off. But when we talk about Lucknow, we actually see that it is more of groundwater. And recent, means 2 days before, I see that recent media coverage actually talking about groundwater plunge of 11.5 to 20 meters. The plunge is 11.5 to 20 meters. And the lakes are also not protected. And the pumps are operating almost 18 to 24 hours. Now, interestingly, in 2012, when we published our excreta matters talking about the water and waste in 72 cities, we saw Lucknow was sourcing 60% from Gomti and 40% was groundwater based. Now, what is the scenario now? What is the scenario? Are you still going for more of river water? Is the city planning for stretching itself? Or are you going for more dependence on groundwater?
In fact, the pattern of municipal water supply that has changed over the years during last 15 years. Now we are more dependent on groundwater. Surface water has limited capacity. There are 3 water works. They provide only 360 million liters per day, whereas demand is increasing with continuous new urbanization, new colonies are coming. So dependency on groundwater is increasing day by day. What happened? There are about some 15 years back, there were only 300 tube wells of this municipal water supply. Now they have increased to 700 tube wells. This is all only municipal water supply tube wells. And the extraction from these municipal water supplies is around 500 to 600 million liter per day. Whereas when new colonies are coming up, new private multi-story buildings are coming up, they are extracting they are installing their own tube wells. And recently we have calculated in March 2024, based on some random survey, we are extracting 1800 million liter per day. This is very, very high and very, very alarming situation in Lucknow city. That's why it has become the largest extractor of groundwater in Uttar Pradesh. This is the largest extractor city in Uttar Pradesh. So we have limited option as far as surface water is concerned, until or unless we have to import from some Sharda river or some other sources. Only then, otherwise, situation of groundwater is becoming grim day by day. Just you were talking about the plunge in water level. What we have some 50-60 monitoring stations in Lucknow city. And the data shows that we have started this monitoring from 2007. Between 2007 and 2015, the average annual decline was between 60 centimeter to 1.5 meter. Now, during last 10 years, you were talking about the newspapers cut. Situation has changed between 2013 and 2023. Now, the average has come around 90 centimeter to 2 meters yearly. This is very, very alarming situation. How to control this? There are certain issues we will discuss later on.
Yeah, that will come when we discuss the solution. Now, coming to Dr. Mehta, Dr. Mehta, we have seen that there is a big gap for the demand and supply in Udaipur. And what is the city of Udaipur thinking about improving the water supply? How is it thinking? Is it again thinking? So we have 2 scenarios where Mr. Vishwanath talked about the city going far and far away, actually spending huge amount of money to get that much of water. And number 2, we have Dr. Sinha talking about Lucknow, the largest the city which actually extracts the largest amount of groundwater. Now tell me about Udaipur. What is the city's plan for future?
So let me first start that Udaipur is not that big city if you compare with I mean, Delhi, Bangalore, and Lucknow. We are very small. You can call us a very medium, sort of a medium city. So there are two ways of, thinking about the gap and demand and all that. So officially, the demand is 152 MLD, and against this 152 MLD, the supply available is 105 MLD. So we are basically, Udaipur district as a whole is a 3 basin area, and Udaipur city itself is situated in the basin which is known as the Banas basin area or the Bedaj basin area. We have 2 other basins. One is the Mahi basin, where this Jaisamand lake is located, very big lake, and other is the Sabarmati basin. So Udaipur lakes, the supply from the production from the, this is a wrong word as far as the water is concerned, but the general terminology is production. So water production from these 2 lakes, Pichola and Fateh Sagar, very famous lakes, is around 15 and 28 million liter per day. So, and the 10 MLD support is from the groundwater. So this is the local water available, right? So we take water from the Jaisamand, which is around 20 MLD. We take water from the Sabarmati basin, which is around 31 million liter. So in all, it's a 105 million liter water available. But this is not the actual analysis, it's my estimate that around 60-70% of the houses in the city or in the urban Udaipur, they are having the tube wells. So the official supply, as far as the Public Health Engineering Department is concerned, it is 105 liter per capita per day. But if you look, I see myself, in my own house, I extract a lot of groundwater from the tube well. So people are relying on the tube well also. So you cannot actually estimate what is the demand and what is the gap. Officially, it's a gap, and to overcome this gap, they are trying to double the water which is taken from the Jaisamand lake, which is 60 kilometers away from the Udaipur, and from the Sabarmati basin, they are planning to get another 34 million liter. So they will reach to 152 MLD. But to me, I mean, these are not the actual estimates. People are extracting water from the groundwater. As I said, the people are having the tube well. So the actual demand and actual gap is very difficult to determine, though we have the official figures there. The second important thing which I would like to highlight here is it's not just the quantity gap which we should address. We should also address the quality gap, right?
Okay, I think we have lost Anil Mehta's internet connection. There's some problem with that. So meanwhile, Mr. Vishwanath, we come back to you. As you were telling that the city's network is not enough, so that people get the help of the Kaveri Phase 5. But then you have the expanded city, which is actually extracting the groundwater. So what are your solutions? What are your solutions which we are talking about when we talk about groundwater?
Okay. So there was some internet interruption. Can you hear me, Sushmita?
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
You please finish.
So city is planning to augment the water from the nearby sources which are located in other basin. But the important thing which I would like to add here is that from whatever the place, whatever the basin which is say 60 kilometer apart or the 100 kilometer apart, you take water. Unless the city adjusts its water problem locally, the water problem would not be solved. And fortunately in Udaipur, there are many organizations which are appealing to the people that let's save the water. Whatever the amount which is saved is the water augmented. For Udaipur, if a person saves 1 liter of water, it would be 1 MLD of water saved. So there is a big campaign. I mean, there are groups like our organization, Jil Samiti, and the Paryavaran Sanakshan Gatividi. All these organizations are appealing to people that let's concentrate on saving the water. Because if the urban dwellers, they start saving the water, I don't think whether it's Udaipur or it's Lucknow or Delhi, there could not be any water problem. Yeah.
Okay, so if you have come to this point, Dr. Mehta, thank you for coming to this point, saying on saving of water. On this line, actually, I was talking to Mr. Vishwanath just now, that the expanded part of Bengaluru, as you see, they are extracting the groundwater. So tell us something about the sustainability the city is thinking about. Is it only thinking about getting the water, putting the network in place, or doing something about the source sustainability?
It's only now that the institution is thinking of regulating groundwater, the institution being the Bangalore Water Supply and Sewerage Board, in conjunction with the state groundwater board or authority, which is trying to now make sure that every new borewell which is going to be drilled is...
Vishwanath, your mic, please, the voice is very muffled.
Is that right?
Slightly
Anilji?
better, if you can shout a little, that will help.
Yeah. Is Dr. Ravindra Sinha, is that clear now? Right. So
it's still low, but if you can, speak as loudly, then it will be better.
I'll do my best. So the thing is that groundwater has been not regulated. I was surprised when Mr. Ravindra Sinha mentioned such a stunningly high figure of 1,800 million liters per day being extracted in the case of Lucknow. In Bangalore, we may have an estimated 4 lakh to 5 lakh bore wells, which may be extracting close to 600 million liters per day. This is one estimate. It's a very rough guesstimate. And borewell depths have fallen to 1,800 feet in the periphery. That's stunningly deep. It takes a 35 horsepower pump to get it out. Now, the only way to be able to do something about it is A, demand management. You need to put a meter, in my opinion, on every borewell and control and at least understand what the extraction figures are, and do supply side augmentation through recharge. Recharge can happen in two ways. One is to rejuvenate the lakes that we have in the periphery of the city as well as within the city, make sure that they're filled with rainwater, and in the absence of rainwater, treated wastewater of adequate quality. Second is to recharge directly, that is to pick rooftop rainwater, store as much of it as we can, and push the remaining into the shallow aquifer, and if possible, into the deep aquifer. That's something we need to do to augment supply, right? But there is a limit to what groundwater can store and provide. We have to do that understanding through detailed sub-aquifer mapping. That exercise is only now happening. We're trying to start to understand what the city's aquifers are capable of holding and releasing. And as Anil Mehta ji mentioned, there's a quality challenge with groundwater. The deeper you go, the higher the salinity. The TDS levels start to go up, which means that apartments and gated communities use RO, and RO then has rejects, and we don't know what to do with the rejects at a high scale, right? So this is a sort of a universal global problem. Net lesson, we should focus a lot more on lake rejuvenation, rainwater harvesting, and bringing the aquifer as high as possible, getting back to the shallow aquifer as much as possible, because shallow aquifers tend to have lesser TDS and better quality water, though they are susceptible to microbiological contamination. That should be the path for which we need institutional mechanisms.
Okay, Mr. Vishwanath, as we see that you are talking about the quality, you are putting emphasis on the quality also, as Dr. Mehta has done. Now, we all know that water and waste cannot be seen in silos. And as Lucknow is extracting 1,800 million liters per day, and you are saying Bangalore is up to 600 million liters per day, this huge amount of groundwater is extracted. So which means that the amount of wastewater is also huge, because these are not official figures maybe, and the calculation of the wastewater may not be right, whatever is with the government. So huge amount of wastewater is available in all the cities which needs to be treated. Now coming to that point, Dr. Sinha, we have seen that when we have actually doing the survey for our excreta matters, we have seen that the sewage of the city is polluting the groundwater. As huge amount of sewage, as I told you, is actually produced. So what are the, because you have been a part of the state groundwater board, so what are the solutions the city is thinking about of improvement of groundwater quality. Anything means, if you can tell me about the contaminant and what solution you are talking about, then that will help our viewers also to get a clear idea.
Definitely, this quality issue is very relevant when we are discussing about the issue of water stress or water management. In fact, you were talking about nitrate pollution during your survey. We have also found some 20 years back, some sampling was done, and we found heavy nitrate contamination in. That is because of the most of the areas still having soap pits. 50% of the city, though we have a good sewerage plan, but in some parts the sewerage system is not working. They are either defunct or they are non-functional or damaged. So this is the reason the contamination is percolating down into the aquifers. Another issue is bacteriological contamination. In Gomti Nagar is a very posh area of Lucknow. Some 10 years back, with the help of ITRC, Indian Toxicological Research Institute, we have carried out sampling of submersible borings, domestic borings. What was the surprising thing? We have found fecal coliform in abundance in those borewells, domestic borewells. So these are the issues, but in spite of that, we have yet to take up any detailed assessment of quality. This area is still a neglected area. I must say that for the when we talk about recharge and reuse, recycle, we must focus on groundwater quality. UP, you will be surprised to know that initially we were thinking that alluvial aquifers, they are quite safe. They do not have any contamination. But in 52 districts, we have different sets of contaminants, pollutants, like heavy metals. Besides, there is an issue of salinity. Salinity, there is a saline belt which is extending from Ghaziabad and it extends over up to Jaunpur. And passing through Lucknow, there is a Lucknow Cis area. Cis means Cis Gomti area, south of the Gomti. This saline belt is passing at a depth of 140 to 200 meters. And when our phreatic aquifers, shallow aquifers already dried up, and we are approaching for deeper exploration, then this area is quite worrisome. So in that case, we have to think, because when we are using groundwater and surface water on a large scale for our domestic and other uses, so this wastewater, there should be a very specific policy how to make it usable. But still, we have made the provision in our Groundwater Management Regulation Act, but it is still to be enforced. So this recycle and reuse, it is important for the cities like Lucknow and other cities.
Okay, Dr. Sinha, thank you for that. So we understand that Lucknow is having two sort of problem. One is a nitrate, which is actually connected to the sewage problem. And another one, you are talking about the salinity problem. So if we come to Dr. Mehta, so Dr. Mehta, we are also, as you are telling that you are getting water from Jaisalmer Lake, Sabarmati Basin. So are we also not talking about the pollution of the lakes? Because if you see whatever analysis has been done, there are huge amount of data which talks about the pollution of the lakes. So how do you think these traditional water bodies, which always supplied water to the city of Jodhpur, Udaipur, can also be cleaned and used as a groundwater recharge system as well as a source of supply to the city?
Yeah, but you said very rightly, as Vishwanath ji has said, Udaipur is also a city of lakes. Udaipur and Bangalore both are the city of lakes.
Okay, on that note, Dr. Sena, I just want to come back to you. As Dr. Mehta said that Udaipur is not a city of tube wells or bore wells. It's more of open wells, Bawris. And so I'm just curious to know, what is the state doing for the plugging the increase in private bore wells in the city? Anything you can comment on that?
In fact, in 2019, the state government has come out with a act on groundwater management regulation, and the rules have been framed in 2020. And the target users, they were industries, commercial users, infrastructure users, and bulk users. But this act is very comprehensive, and very good provisions are already there, including fixing of extraction limit when we award some NOC to industry road, but some provisions are left out, and only for the time being we are giving no objection certificates. So for allowing them to go for further extraction. And regarding, there is a provision that all the domestic borings in urban areas of the state, they should register themselves. But there is no mandatory provisions, no some penal provision. So the feedback is not good. Nobody is interested to get themselves registered. That is a very simple format. We need some information, and they will be given some registration number, but that is missing. So that's why we are not able to control this. You will be surprising to know that there are 6 lakhs dwelling units in Lucknow, and 1.2 lakhs submersible borings are there in Lucknow, and there are on daily basis each and every household is this summer, this is very heat. My neighbor and one house on the second row, they are all going for the submersible borings because your regular municipal water supply, that is not adequate. So this is the scenario, and groundwater is uncontrolled. Extraction is totally uncontrolled. And apart from this, you take the example of Lucknow. Lucknow is already a notified area in 2022. This has been classified as overspatted by the Central Water Board in the latest assessment, 2023. So there is a need to revisit. We have a set of provisions, but the need is to enforce them, to implement them. So we have to revisit our provisions. The need is to monitor what is the gap, where we are missing.
So, anything you want to highlight, like what are the different stakeholders actually doing for this? Because you are saying that uncontrolled groundwater extraction is happening. So, what are the people doing? What is the citizen thinking about it? Are they taking any initiative apart from what government is doing?
There are some stakeholders, some NGOs. They are doing some awareness programs, but that is not impactful. The pattern of extraction is so high that we are not able to how to control it, because everyone, even in this multi-story building, every 2 towers they have one tube well. Or now cities are expanding gradually. So what is happening? All the multi-story buildings, they promise for 24-hour water supply, and they give tube wells. Definitely, we are sitting on alluvial aquifers. Our this shallow and phreatic aquifer, that is not in a position to give sufficient yields, so they are going down beyond 100-150 meters in the second aquifer. But then comes the problem. We have the fine sand. This is alluvium. We have fine sand, but in that fine sand we are having low discharges, low yield, and low recharge. So other interventions are not so effective. So this is a very situation. We have some suggested some solutions to the state government that we should now plan to phase out these tube wells to the peri-urban areas. We have certain pockets which are quite potentially enough groundwater is there. We can construct a battery of tube wells and augment the city supplies. Besides, there is a Sharda River some 400-500 kilometers away. Now that this is the time, high time, we should think to export water from Sharda River or some other major water sources. Otherwise, Lucknow will be, in coming years, it will be things will be very serious, because we have started developing troughs beneath the ground. Trough means the water level is going down and the top layer is dried. The troughs are already they have been formed, and in case of any, or secondly, the clay layer, it is become plastic. These changes are already occurring or some major land subsidence sort of event can occur.
Okay. So coming to Mr. Vishwanath, as Dr. Sinha is telling that the topmost unconcentrated aquifer is almost finished, and the land subsidence may take place due to over extraction. So I just want to ask you, because Bangalore, just like Udaipur, is city of lakes. So do you think that Bangalore is actually failing to focus on the local sources, failing to focus on the lakes and water bodies it had, failing to focus on the recharge and rejuvenation of those water bodies?
Yes, in the sense, the local resources are a good supplement to the piped water supply. They need not necessarily be a complete replacement, but they will add to the aquifers and they make sure that borewells don't go dry and that they supplement the water requirement of the citizens which come from the Kaveri. And especially in the peripheral areas where they're completely dependent on groundwater, keeping the lakes alive, filling them with rainwater and filling them with tertiary treated used water. I won't use the term wastewater, but used water through a process of wetlands will go a long way in recharging the shallow aquifer. But as Anilji was mentioning, we need to be making sure that we identify the right lakes which have the capability of percolation. Not all lakes will percolate, not all lakes will recharge. Plus, the lakes will have to be regularly desilted if you want recharge, because biofouling and silting quickly prevents percolation from these lakes. So we need to focus on that. But we need a more scientific understanding of the surface water and groundwater interface. As Dr. Ravindra Sindha was mentioning, luckily for us, because we have a hard rock terrain, granite gneissic terrain, there is no compression that occurs because the weathered zone is relatively stable. And it has the capability of receiving rainwater and absorbing it in the weathered zone, quite a lot of it. We are using it in certain lakes now. The BWSSB has started to fill 21 lakes with treated wastewater. And in the case of Devanahalli town, it's actually treated wastewater which is filling a lake, blending with rainwater, recharging the aquifer. And when we tap it from the aquifer, we find it's of potable quality with minimum treatment. We get BIS 10500 drinking water quality, and we're able to supply it to domestic water supply. So overall, the thinking which cities will have to approach is surface water, piped water sources from far, groundwater managed in a sustainable fashion, lake water, river water, stream water, and floodplain water, which is managed adequately, rainwater, and finally treated used water. Luckily for Bangalore, we have 59 wastewater treatment plants already built or being built, which will have the capacity to treat 2,000 million liters per day. This 2,000 million liters will be a valuable asset for the city as well as for the region if it is used properly for industrial urban use, for ecological use, and for agricultural use.
That is very well said, Mr. Vishwanath, very well explained actually. So now that all the cities are in during the summers are facing this problem of water scarcity, whether we are talking about Delhi, whether we are talking about Udaipur, Lucknow, or Bangalore. So the main thing again which is coming into play is the tanker supply. Is a tanker supply that is actually moving all around the city. So Supreme Court has come down heavily on Delhi, saying that you have to check the tanker supply, the tanker mafia. The word that is being used is the tanker mafia, which is actually running across the cities, supplying water and actually charging the citizens at their own, whatever they want to charge. And the citizens have no other way but to buy the water from this tanker supply. So one by one, I'll come to Dr. Sinha. Dr. Sinha, can you please tell us, like, what is happening in Lucknow in water crisis when the cities are reeling under the hot summer? So you have the tankers. Do you have the role of the tankers over there?
In fact, in Lucknow, this tanker supply, private tanker supply, is a regular feature. Though they usually charge 5,000 to 7,000 per tanker, and that quantity is about 5,000 liter. This is happening around the Lucknow in the peripheral region. They have submersible borings. They used to sail it, this is a regular feature. About 30 locations already they are situated. We have identified 30 locations which are doing this business. In fact, in our Groundwater Management and Regulation Act, we made a very clear provision that sale and purchase of this raw water will not be allowed, and it is penalized. It is a penal action will be taken. But there are some issues. We are not able to enforce it. Provision is there. District magistrate is the chairman of District Groundwater Management Committee. So we are suggesting them to take action against these. There is a provision in the act, but still this business is going on, roaring business. Every day we have estimated roughly 2 million liters they are selling water.
Okay. So we'll come to Dr. Mehta. Dr. Mehta, what is the kind of solution people look for when they don't get water during the summers?
See, this tanker mafia per se is not the problem in Udaipur, but just we have a number of multi-story buildings. So Udaipur is growing, and many multi-story buildings are coming. So there may be problem, though we are a hard rock area, but this problem of sinking, which someone has said, may be here. So in multi-story buildings, there is no piped water supply from the government. Unfortunately, we do not have that provision still in Udaipur. So the all multi-story buildings, whether it's a 30 flats or 50 flats or 100, 200 flats, they all rely on the groundwater. So when the tube well go dry, they then they purchase this tube well, this tanker water. But the problem of other than this tanker, the major problem is of the RO water, which is sold in Udaipur. So there is no exact figures of how many RO these plants are there in Udaipur, and how much water they are selling every day, and how much water they are extracting, because Udaipur is not having this groundwater management committee or groundwater regulation bill. It is still pending in the Rajasthan Assembly. So this RO, they are in abundance in Udaipur, right? They supply to the local shops, in some of the houses, in the programs, the marriage ceremonies, everything. And it's a huge business. So this RO, the plant owners, they are extracting a lot of groundwater, but tanker mafia per se, it is limited to the multi-story building, which are extracting a lot of groundwater.
So after coming to Mr. Vishwanath, we'll just try and find out what are the sources of these tanker supply is, and then again come back to the source. Obviously, is groundwater, as we can see. Mr. Vishwanath, can you please tell us what is Bangalore doing when they are not getting the water? Are they calling the tankers?
See, let's understand that private water tankers come because of state failure. If the state were to give piped water supply to every house and every apartment, give it 24/7, and give it of BIS 10500 drinking water quality, we won't need bore wells, we won't need private water tanker, we won't need RO systems, we won't need water filters. So clearly, the inability of the state to deliver requisite quantity and quality of water creates a market which is first a service provider and can cartelize and become a mafia. It's easy to use the word mafia and to lay the blame at the hand of the private water tankers, but the real blame is with the state institutions which have not supplied water to the citizens. We need to be clear on that front, right? Now, where do the private water tankers get their water? They get it from groundwater. If I'm a flat owner, as Mr. Anil Mehta was rightly mentioning, if I stay in an apartment which has 100 flats, I need a certain volume of water. I'll depend on the Kaveri water supply. If it does not give me enough, I'll dig a bore well or 2 bore wells or 4 bore wells and try to get water. If the bore wells are inadequate, then I have to take recourse to the tanker water, because that's the only way that I can live. It's my right to life, right? So tanker water cannot easily be wished away, private water tanker. Yes, we need to regulate and control them. But let's remember, it's a market function. So the only way you can bring down mafias and bring down prices is to increase competition, not to reduce and regulate and reduce competition, but to increase competition, make sure that they draw water from sustainable water sources. If you're able to identify a lake, make sure that the lake is recharging the aquifer, and tell the tanker guys, you can only take it from here in certain quantities. Most of them will willingly do that, but we quickly label them villains and try and use coercive tactics legally to regulate them, which does not work. As is clearly depicted in Lucknow, you can have the laws, but the laws will not play themselves out if these tankers are providing a service.
It's very well said, Mr. Vishwanath, that you use your groundwater just like you use your bank account. You put 100 rupees and you actually draw 100 rupees, and you can continue doing that. So this is very, very well said. So we've got some very good points, but before that, I open it to the question answers. So let's see what questions we have, and then we can put it to the different speakers. Dr. Sinha, I think you can best reply to this. What are the criteria for inject well groundwater recharge with treated wastewater, and what quality it means?
In fact, in UP, we do not allow recharge of any treated water. This is totally banned in the Act. You cannot pave water or from open fields. They are not permitted for direct recharging. So there is a clear-cut ban on such grey water recharge or some rainwater recharge which is falling on the open ground. We permit only rooftop catchment that can be used for direct recharging. So this is the view of state government.
Okay, Mr. Vishwanath, you want to add anything to this?
Yes, I think treated used water, we have guidelines now which have been issued by the center, and safe use of treated used water. It is only allowed for indirect recharge by filling lakes and then filling wetlands, and then you have a surface phreatic zone to filter the water further and then recharge it. It is not advisable to think of direct recharge now in the current circumstances. It's always better to fill it in lakes and water bodies and allow it to use the natural percolation systems. I just want to respond to one question on rainwater harvesting potential, if you allow me, Susmita. It's there in the question. Just as an addition to this, the potential for rainwater harvesting depends on the characteristic of rainfall, the total volume of rainfall, its distribution, and the quality of the catchment. In Bangalore, it's mandatory for every new building to do rooftop rainwater harvesting, and they have to harvest 60 liters of water per square meter of roof area, or a 60 millimeter rainfall event has to be either stored or recharged, or a combination of storage and recharge into the ground. That's mandatory. But with the experience that I've had of about 25 years of rainwater harvesting in Bangalore city, I can say that we cannot exceed a potential of maybe, if we do everything well, about 30% of the total rainfall can be captured and used, no more than that, unfortunately or fortunately. We have to be realistic. Even that will need a lot of pushing and persuasion of our citizens and institutions and communities to get to that place.
Okay, thank you. So, Dr. Sinha, another question coming up is there any restriction? How many borewells can be there in 1 acre?
Pardon?
Do you have any guidelines for that?
Pardon? Can you repeat, please?
Any number of borewells in an acre?
In 1 acre?
Yes.
No, there is no such guideline because in agriculture area we have no mandatory provisions for agriculture field, and in urban areas there is also no such ban. You have to simply take NOC from authority.
Okay. So
Actually, Susmita, it depends on, I mean, this guideline should be developed. Actually, it depends on the zone of influence of the tube well, right? Ideally, in a zone of influence of aquifer, the another of any tube well, another tube well should not be bored. Both would be suffered, right? So this science has to be, more developed at how many tube wells could be there, whether tube wells are required or not required, and what could be the, size of the pipe and, depth or all that. But unfortunately, it's not regulated. There's no guidelines. So every household, after every 20-30 feet, you will find a tube well in a densely populated, densely habitated colonies. This is unfortunate.
I just want to add. Initially, we have made the provision that there should be a distance of 50 meters between two wells. But when it was submitted to government, they were not agreed. Okay, there should not be any sort of condition between two bore wells. It should be relaxed. So this is in the background. We have already submitted that the cone of depression has formed when two bore wells are very close. So this will not good for sustainability of the resource. Anyway.
So, Dr. Mehta, I just want to ask another question to you, since you have talked about the distance. So, any guideline for how far it will be from the dug well? This is a question from Rosama Thomas.
Yeah, so as I said, there are no, exact scientific intervention or the guidelines are there. So I do not have any idea of any dug well. Normally, if I see at Udaipur or in the nearby areas of Udaipur, they are quite apart. It's not so close, because they are mostly either what is Udaipur old system? There are many small habitated areas. For every habitated area, there's one or two step wells or the dug wells are there, right? So it may be by the convention or it may be by the scientific understanding, but it was not so closely located. But as Mr. Sinha said, whether it's an open well or it's a tube well, the aquifer characteristic and the one of this influence or whatever you call it, everything should be studied, and based on that, it should be decided. But there could be some thumb rules based on that particular specific area or the locality. It could not be a generalized figure for the whole of the country, because there is high variations in the geology of the country.
And that is different for different hydrological conditions.
Okay, so we had actually many comments coming up saying that why 3 cities, why not all the cities? So we had just 1 hour discussion, just focusing on the 3 cities from 3 corners of the country, from 3 different ecological regions. Bangalore, of course, actually hitting the headlines. Then we have Dr. Mehta from the desert desert state. And we have from Indo-Gangetic Plain. I'm sure we'll come up with more cities, because more cities are reeling under the heat wave. And we have several questions coming up, like how we can actually make people aware, and what's like RWH structures in Delhi. That's with the Delhi Jal board. You can actually talk to them. And so we have a series of advices also coming up, saying that what should be done and what can be done. And we have one question from Dipenderji already. I'm seeing on the screen. Dipenderji, you have a straight question to any of the speakers? You can please ask.
Yeah, I just have a comment here that, see, if we look at the discussion, we are looking at 2 very clear things. One is there an absolute water supply crisis in our cities? So that was the first thing we looked at, seeing whether, there is a water supply shortage. Is Kaveri not going to supply more water to Bangalore? Is Delhi reaching its water supply limits? Is Udaipur in that condition? Is Lucknow? So the clear answer was no. That is not the case. Water supply doesn't seem to be reaching its limit in all these 4 cities. It may have reached in Jodhpur, it may have reached in other semi-arid and arid cities of India, certainly. But in these 4 cities and in many other cities, water supply has not reached its constraint or a limit. Of course, if you take water from Kaveri or from Satluj, you are denying water for agriculture. That much needs to be accepted. But there is no absolute scaremongering which we should be a little, worried about. Second scaremongering is about tanker system. And I think the Supreme Court went overboard trying to look at tankers. And I was driving to my office in Delhi today. Where I live in West Delhi, there is no tanker mafia. There is no tanker supply, in fact. So North and West Delhi don't have a water shortage. So the second point is very clearly, it is not that Delhi water mafia is traveling all over Delhi and, looting people. And this is a very wrong misconception, which is again fostered by media unnecessarily, and which Supreme Court picks up because it's in the media all the time. So the second takeaway is the tanker mafia issue should not be, highlighted. And Vishwanath has done well when the Bangalore water crisis happened. The same question was posed to him, and whether the government should regulate tankers and not. Fortunately, in Delhi, private water tankers are very few. Majority of the water tankers are government-run water tankers. And I think the third major point which has come here is about the unequal distribution. Delhi is the prime example of that. I have no water shortage in my house in West Delhi. I get water twice a day, 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening on the second floor with good pressure. Water supply is in the southern part of Delhi, where actually the water supply lines are, the main lines are reaching its tail end. It's like the tail end irrigation. So by the time water from North Delhi, where the water treatment plants are located, when it comes to South Delhi, it runs out of water because it's eaten away on the way, or there is leakage, or there is theft. So I think that's the third point, that Delhi augmenting its water supply by taking 137 cusecs per day from Himachal will not address the water shortage in Sangam Bihar, Tikri, Tughlakabad, Govindpuri, Kanpur, all Mehrauli, the southern part, which Sushmita highlighted, has a lower water distribution. The inequity and the unequal distribution will not be covered by more water supply. It needs a more internal redistribution challenge. So the last point I wanted to make was, therefore, when we talk of water and cities, we need to look at, are we first reaching a limit in water supply for our cities? If there is an issue of internal distribution, what are we going to do with it? These 2 points, if we don't address, we will keep going round and round looking for, what is the groundwater issue? What is that? These are all important. But the cities, since this is a webinar for water and cities, we are dealing with actually what needs to be done. And in my conversation with Anilji in Udaipur, he told me actually there is no water shortage. Every house in Udaipur has a borewell. I was also surprised to hear that. It's a lake city, which, as he's rightly saying, should not have borewells, should have shallow aquifer recharge. But because it's a confined city, and people are having borewells. So I think each typology of city is different, but for our large cities, those 2 parameters we should look at. Is there an absolute shortage? If there is, yes, we should do something about it. If there is not, then we should look at the internal distribution and how that can be improved. Thanks.
Thank you, Dipendraji. So as we started about the pipe dreams, so we see that Bangalore is actually stretching itself, Delhi stretching itself. So there is no need of actually stretching yourself. You must focus on the local sources, as Mr. Vishwanath said, that you use it, you recharge it, and then again use it. So again, when we come to the city of lakes of Udaipur, they can source the water from their local sources. No need to go out to some other basin to actually get the water from the city supply. Again, they can actually encash on their local water bodies. But the thing is, they need to recharge it, rejuvenate it, and keep it clean. And the cities which are using the groundwater to supplement your surface water also needs to look after the sewage. Look after the sewage so that you do not pollute your local resources. You do not pollute your local water bodies or the local groundwater. So the prices that we are talking about is, and getting water from the far away distance actually will be reduced if we talk about the water management, judicious use of water and managing the water well. So with this, we end our this webinar, and we actually hope to come back more on the crisis and the solution part with other cities also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sushmita. Thank you,
Thank
Deepinder.
you.
Thank you, Shanaji. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ravinderji. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaishnavi.